Okay, we are live this end. Welcome to Patriotic Art Live with the Patri.Art and Donald Kent. And today's
Hey guys,
theme
how's everybody?
is white people things. How you doing, Donald? We missed you last week.
Yeah, I apologize for missing some streams. Life happens, as you know,
Yes.
and sometimes there it is. So oops, sorry, I'm getting an echo here. um, anyway, I'm back and
Yep.
I'm ready to rock. So this
Awesome.
week's theme is white people things. This is so let's say hello to people in the chat. Splattercat just arrived here. Great to have you. Please share the link if you can. So what are white people things, Patriarch? Give us a
White people things. Well, we was mentioning earlier off stream that it seems to become a sort of a cultural buzzword or term, and
yeah.
white people things that white people tend to do. You know, things that we're kind of renowned for. So it could be a number of things, but I guess the stereotypes are often true, aren't they?
Yeah, we were talking about like when we discussed this topic of white people things. For me, it's a positive, kind of a meme, if you will. Like, people in our culture will post maybe a GIF or a clip or a picture, a meme of something of just white people doing white people things, and it gives us all kind of a little bit of a heartwarming moment where, like, for example, the theme that I'm drawing here is some people saving a drowning deer. Like, why? Like, that's white people things right there. Like, there's all kinds of videos out there of people doing these kinds of heroic deeds.
Yeah.
Of course, our enemies will do something, will show something like that and kind of say it with a derogatory tone or something of that nature. And I honestly, I kind of laugh at that. I think, to me, that's sort of silly. I don't take it to heart. You know what I'm saying? But Splattercat's already on top of it. Things like exploring, building, inventing. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, we've obviously come from different angles. I asked the community in the Patriotic Arts community some thoughts, and some of the initial thoughts I had was exploring, mountaineering. Sort of high. What would you call it? Thrill-seeking, adventure type sports, extreme sports, mountaineering, climbing heights. Real exploration type things. We had a few festivals earlier, so my idea is I want to. I'm quite liking doing landscapes lately, anyway, and so I'm looking to do a scene of people trekking and finding sort of a peak on the mountains, and I thought maybe combine it with something that's quite far-fetched, and the guy gets to the top of a peak and he's got his bass guitar out, or his guitar, and he's riffing along, like, busting a chord,
blowing in the breeze or something like that, and there's like,
yeah. So I'm gonna play around. I'm gonna start being regular with doing some thumbnails, sketches, and then choosing an idea, and then finishing it off. But I'm gonna go down the extreme sports route on some frosty peaks, and then maybe just an amalgamation of a few different things, from guitarist sort of doing some chords as he gets to the height of the mountain, and then some wingsuit divers as well, maybe would be nice.
So you're taking a much more bold approach to the topic. Mine, I think, is a little more sort of just like, I don't know, down to earth or something of this nature. Like, just this morning, before we started this show, I happened to run across a video of something like this with just white people
Hmm.
things. The video starts off. There's I don't know where this is, but essentially it's in a polar region,
Yeah.
and a polar bear comes to this guy's cabin, and the polar bear somehow found a tin can, and he licked it to try to get some food out,
Oh
but
wow.
because of freezing weather, his tongue got stuck to the can. So the poor polar bear finds this guy's cabin, and he's gently, or she is gently, sort of like essentially calling for help. I mean, I don't how does a polar bear know to do that? That to me alone is kind of amazing that it is seeking help.
Yeah.
But such stories are not uncommon, actually. Um, and anyway, so the guy is, tries to remove it. Of course, it doesn't come off. Um, it's a whole situation. So what does he do? He gets his buddies in on a helicopter. They tranquilize the thing. They transport it to some kind of a medical facility. I mean, this is going way over the top. And then of course they remove it. It's little injured, so whatever they do, whatever they have to help it.
Hmm.
And while the polar bear is still knocked out, they return it, to the ice or wherever it lives, but they surround it with all this fish that they got, so that it's
Okay.
got something to eat. And it's just such a charming little story. I figure like not all my art has to be, like so angry and bold and severe and all these things. It's sometimes just something simple, showing basic compassion like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Sure.
I think it really is a testament to our people, and it brings to mind a clip I saw. I think this might have been on TED Talks, actually. I saw it several years ago. There was a man from India who did a talk about what's different about white people and other people in the world. Pretty fascinating, right? I mean, that's obviously something I would want to, hear about.
Hmm.
And long story short, he's saying, okay, so like, I grew up in India. Of course, I grew up in a time where Britain had, influence. I speak English, the whole history of that. And I often wondered, like, what is it that's different about the British or white people in general from my own people? If you walk around India, you're going to see a lot of poverty, a lot of crime, a lot of suffering. Um, but then you have, white people will come along and, uh, you know, donate money or set up hospitals or orphanages or this or that or that and
Yeah.
on and on. And it's like, why are these foreigners doing this, but my own people are not doing this? What's the difference here?
Yeah. I
Anyway,
mean.
so he goes on to, he has some kind of big study that demonstrates that white people, according to his research, they view resources differently than specifically Indians, but people of color in general.
Okay.
Like someone from India would say, like, why should I stop to help this person, even just for a minute, even just to smile to them on the street, because it's wasting my resources, my time, my energy,
Hmm.
whatever it is. And he's saying essentially white people seem to have essentially more compassion, more like a kind of social intelligence, if you will. um
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed to hear that from an Indian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's definitely a standout trait. It's been a blessing of ours, but also a curse in the sense that I think
Oh
in
yeah,
modern
yeah.
times now, I think it's being taken advantage of and exploited to a certain
Get it?
extent.
Yeah, it's sort of sociopathic. What do they call that? Pathological altruism.
Yeah.
I think you might have heard that phrase before.
Hmm.
um yeah, that's a whole other topic, but I suppose, that's a big can of worms right there, but
Yeah. I
like
know.
that's a
I
lot
know.
to think through.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but
Anyway, so
I think it's a good route that you're going down. And
yeah,
it's nice too that we're both taking completely different angles on this because obviously we're showing off both sides of I guess white people, whiteness. Just hello to saying hello to Mayfair Carpenter, hello, and Repair Shop. How's things going, guys? Um, so yeah, we're renowned for doing certain things and
yeah,
exploration, inventing, pushing things to the
yeah,
limits. I think
right, right,
are
right.
some of our greatest strengths. Deferring
But you know,
gratification a lot of the time,
yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah. But you know that invention and math and these things, those are white supremacists, right? You know that?
well, yeah, I know that. Well, just if you was to just look at the hardcore facts and names,
Yeah.
over the past 100 years alone, you will see that there
Hmm.
just are a lot of Caucasian peoples that have contributed to a lot of the
Oh yeah.
technologies. So I mean,
Sure,
it
sure.
is what it is. Facts are
I've
facts.
had I've had this thought that what if, and I think this would horrify some people, but what if white people collectively kept all of our sciences, inventions, medicine to ourselves,
Hmm.
and we didn't share it with the world? Where would the world be today? And or like if we were to just suddenly kick out all non-whites from all of our universities, and just say, okay, you've taken whatever we created, but from here on out, we're, everything else is just ours. You guys are on your own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I think in many cases, a lot of these countries would essentially revert backwards to the state they were in before whites came in contact with them. And I also feel that it's actually in our interest, in our survival interest, to do that. That if we don't do that, we're really just giving our resources, our sciences, we're giving all of our things away to people who will use it against us. For
mm,
example, the Chinese military, they pour, oh God, maybe 1,000 times much more money into genetic warfare design than the United States does.
word,
And I mean,
wow,
chemical warfare, genetic warfare. This is the time that we're in. They didn't invent that, but they took our invention and they're using it against us,
mm,
as they are, airplanes, cars, missiles. We invented all that stuff, and
yeah.
now our inventions are being used against us. So that's
I
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a case here for, like, cutting off our
I think
civilization from.
yeah. I mean, the only thing I would say is that a lot of the inventions of when it comes to sort of economies and trade and things like that, I guess
Mhm.
there's always been
Yeah,
people that have been looking to sell this stuff too, and then there's
there you go.
naturally foreign nations. So I think it's
Sure, sure.
it's one of them. Um, where's the
It,
line? And sure,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the thing about, like, oh, I'm gonna sell this to the foreigners or the enemy or this or that, then that's placing other other people's one's individual interests over the group. So that opens up a new topic about
uh-huh.
looking at ourselves, thinking of ourselves as a people, rather than this kind of atomized way of
Yeah,
self
exactly.
being self-centered, etc. I want to just quickly say hello to Woodlander. It's great to have you. Thanks for joining the show. Give us some examples of white people things that you guys know
Yeah.
of.
If there's anyone
Let's
in
see.
the chat as well, uh, give us some suggestions for white people things. What do you think uh, are typical stereotypical things of white people? I know that
Mhm.
generally non-whites would say colonialism. Well, yeah, I can't really argue with that one.
So let me comment on that real fast. There's a phrase that we use when someone brings up in America between whites and blacks when the topic of slavery is brought up.
mhm.
So you ask, when it's used weaponized against us whites, we say, okay, let me ask you, would you rather be born in America or in Africa? And you're going to find probably 95% of the time blacks will say, I'd rather be born in America.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you just simply answer, then you benefited from slavery, and the conversation's over.
yeah. Very true.
And because they don't know what to say after that, they're kind of like, they stick their foot in their mouth,
Hmm.
essentially. So it's and there's so much more to say. That Forbes just came out with an article saying that um, slavery actually hurt the economy of America at the time. And
Really?
I didn't read the article, but I was actually quite amazed to see that Forbes published an article like that. I'm like, what? So
Yeah,
that's a
that's
whole other
interesting,
topic.
isn't it?
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, there was not that many people that could afford slaves. Like
True.
they make it sound like back in the day that every single family had one, and that I mean, the population was much much lower than it is today. It's everything's just so exaggerated and kind of blown out of proportion.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, isn't it, that even well, even a lot of the black Americans, they do DNA tests and they find that they've got like a great grandfather or something that
Yeah,
basically they descended from. Because let's
yeah,
face it, most black Americans now have vast majority would have some Caucasian, uh, you know,
yes,
DNA
yeah.
kind of
That
mixed
accounts.
somewhere.
That
They're not pure
right.
sub-Saharan. Vast majority would not be pure sub-Saharan.
That's generally true. That does account for higher IQs in a lot of them. Um, it's the same thing with Native Americans actually. Like they've bred in and out over I guess ever since Europeans came. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
So
interesting.
would you say that it works in reverse though, or would you say whites have generally kind of kept themselves a bit more to themselves?
That's a very good question. I think I, of course, can only speak for American history. Um, I guess, half of it is the question of like how much of these births are from rape, and how many are I don't know, just sort of one night stands or something of this nature, or like because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
not a great history of like interracial marriage in like America's past prior to say starting in maybe the 60s, and then as things started liberalizing. um but yeah, I don't know, I mean, it takes two to tango, I guess, right? So somewhere, somehow, that must have a role in this. Splattercat says the world would still be in mud huts chucking spears in the Kabangi country if it wasn't for us. I mean, this is one of my things that I say is that, people of color should actually be protecting whites, not the other way
Yeah.
around.
Some
Thing.
I've heard seen a lot, some of it, not a lot, but I've seen a lot of whites that tend to acknowledge that. They do. Some do acknowledge that. And
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Jesse Lee Peterson. I used to watch
Oh
him.
yeah, oh my God, I love that guy.
He is quite funny, to be fair. And
He is. He is.
just quick hello to Hippocratico. Thanks for tuning in.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm. The theme is white well-being. I'm focusing on sort of extreme sports and the pushing the limits, and Donald Kent is focusing on our compassion, our side of compassion and helping nature
Mm-hmm.
and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's an interesting topic. But also just things like our culture, like square dances, and I mean that's what we have, in America. Swing dance. It's just, uh, craft and vendor shows in the summertime. Like that's a very
Yeah,
white
yeah, yeah.
thing, you know.
I'd
And
say so.
we take it for granted. It's just a part of the landscape. It's just, part of the
I mean, we
world.
tend to do a lot of neighborly stuff as well. I remember seeing one video where there was a group of black guys, and they were kind of like it was quite funny, to be fair, a skit that they did, and it was showing
Yeah.
white people going for walks, and they were like, "Oh, hi, hi." Everyone was like saying hello to each other,
Actually, I
and
saw
they
that.
and
Yeah,
they and they thought it was really. I mean, it's odd to them, but to us it was like so normal. And a lot of the
totally.
feedback and comments on that video was like, well, yeah, and no one was too offended, really. I mean, it's not offensive at all. It's
Okay,
we
good.
see it
That's
as
good.
I mean, end of the day, the main comments was we that's how we build high trust societies. We we kind of
Right,
ingratiate
right,
each other. We make each other feel safe. We help each
right,
other. We warn each other if there's some
right.
kind of turn or some slippy rocks down further ahead.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
let them know,
yeah.
let
If
people
you're
know, and
even in America, if you're driving and there's like a cop down the road, they'll like flash their blinkers, flash their lights on the car
mhm,
to say like slow down, you know,
yeah,
and stuff like that. But that's fascinating. I just saw a post somewhere on social media. There was some woman that moved to a city, and she's like, how come people don't say hello around here? Like she said, I made a point, I'm testing this out, where I'm going through the city and I'm saying hello to every single person, whatever. And she's like, well, I miss that or whatever. And I'm like, you got to move back to the suburbs if you want that kind of behavior, you know. It's almost rude not to in some cases. Like where I live, there's more affluent suburbs, and they're more. These people don't interact with other cultures. They're homogenous. They're, in that sense. So when you walk down the street and you can see them smiling at you as they're coming, then it'd be rude not to say hello.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so, and I like that. I miss that. Yeah.
We'll
It's a
move on to
thing.
this one. So just to explain on my screen, the first idea is a general trek. People walking to a massive high peak. And it could be. I've been picturing a sort of a snowy expedition. Quite frosty. It's winter still here in where I'm at in Romania, and in the UK it's really cold. This is a bit of a fun one. I wanted to combine the. I mean, white people love the guitars generally, don't they? We do love guitar music, and when we hear them chords
Yeah,
going, there's something. I
right.
think if there's a sound or some kind of
Yeah.
frequency of sound, that's it's them strings that resonate with our kind of soul DNA, isn't it?
Yeah,
It gets us
sure,
going, fired
sure.
up, and
String instruments, yeah.
so basically, we've got here on this high peak, um, one of the highest mountains in the area, looking down. The guy decides to take his bass and sub, portable batteries, of course, and he's
Right.
doing some riffs. Why not?
Sweet. Yeah,
and
man. White people think.
white
Talk to
people
them.
things, yeah, just crazy
That's
stuff.
so funny.
And then
Yeah. In America,
skydivers.
we even have like Southerner things. People in the South, that are like super patriotic and like do all these crazy, funny things. There's all
Yeah,
kinds of funny viral videos of them. Like, there's one famous one that became really popular during the Trump uh, era, where it was some kind of like a hurricane tornado situation where they get a lot of tornadoes down in the South,
okay.
and there's this white dude with like really long hair, and he's standing out in the street holding an American flag, like against the wind, and then they've got like Leonard Skinner guitar solo, Freebird in the background. it's just super funny stuff like that. There's interesting comments in the chat here. Let me welcome my friend from Spain here. Carlo is here. It's great to see you again. He's saying treating animals well, having pets, caring for nature and the environment. That's total white people things.
Definitely.
I want to welcome London Babe. I don't know that you've ever been on my channel before. I'm really happy to have you here. So she's saying hello to our friends in the chat, and she's talking about non-whites wanting to be white. And this brings up an interesting topic because I've had this discussion with a lot of people, and we're kind of coming to a conclusion that a lot of the anti-white hatred is actually rooted in jealousy. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a definite envy there, and I think it's evident in also, for example, the black community. They seem to be chasing our past history and almost trying to reclaim it. And it's like they're walking in our shadow. And I'm sure there's a lot of African history.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know too much about it, to be honest, but I think because whites generally built the old world up until this point now, where globalism is kind of overtaking, and we've contributed a lot, and like you said before, it is being kind of used against us, our kind of gifts and creations into the world, and so I think because we are the ancestors of the people that contributed so much and built up this this kind of world from ancient Greece to
today,
today, and all the empires really are kind of, we are the offspring of those people, generally speaking, and
the inheritors.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, even the globalists were probably the largest threat to their kind of power structure that they've got going off right now, and I think that's why we're kind of on the chopping block. And
if I can add to that, one of the things that I read about globalism is that they prefer Asians to be the global, what's the word, like the dominant global population, because in their words, they are the most subservient. They follow orders. And like, I mean, I know a lot about Asians, and just in terms of my living overseas and my studies, etc. And that's true of Japanese and Korean, but not so much of Chinese and Thai and Cambodian. I mean, it's a pretty broad, it's just interesting how even in Asia, like, for example, Filipinos are kind of like the Mexicans of Asia. They just have they're more hot-blooded. They have a different kind of culture. And I really genuinely think that kind of evolving in hot and cold weather really plays a huge role in the evolution of a culture. But anyway, I'm just kind of throwing out some comments here to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely and I think when they look at the achievements of, I mean, there are some cultures which, like you say, a lot of the Chinese, and they've achieved a lot. A lot of the Arabs, they went on a rampage throughout Europe and almost conquered it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think I think a lot of it's indoctrination as well. The Marxist ideologies as
hugely
as turned people against whites.
Big time. Yeah.
So
it's a big thing.
So yeah, here we are. And
here we are being white.
Being white. And,
yes.
And there's obviously differences as well, like Brits are typically known for being very polite, you know, like so
Right.
polite and queuing. We love
Mm-hmm.
to queue, you know.
Yeah.
Even if there's no
That,
queue, we'll form a queue just so that
so
you know it's the right thing to do. And then we get so annoyed
right.
when people skip the queue. It's like,
Ah,
what are you
that's
doing?
terribly rude, isn't it? So Woodlander wrote that timekeeping, queuing, delaying gratification.
Okay.
Those are the queuing thing I find fascinating. But what I'm interested in is, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, and the people in the chat. Like, do people who grow up or are born on islands, you know, does their culture evolve different from people who say are on the mainland? You know what I mean? So what's the difference between, like, I assume that islands in some way are they kind of force people together. They're more cloistered in some regard.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about the ocean around you that compels you to, you know, travel on the water and be like shipbuilding cultures and this kind of thing. What are your thoughts on that? It just seems to me like there needs to be more cohesion. People have to be more polite. You know what I'm saying? In order to survive better, and progress as a society. Do you think that makes any sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I mean, your choices. I think there's two elements to it. Because I think our natural impulses are embedded into us, but it's the environment which helps to extract the tendencies. So you know, we have a lot of the natural impulses ingrained into us, but
Yeah.
the environment is the thing which helps to trigger them, the frequency of them, if that makes sense. So, like you say, if we're
Okay.
in the city, um, you know, we like
Oh,
to drink,
okay.
for example. We do like to drink. We like to kind of push things to the limits, and that's why
No,
our
really?
shortcomings are, you know, like a lot. We can fall into degeneracy quite quickly and easily.
Oh, okay.
That's partly being human, I guess. Um, so yeah,
Mhm.
city life, for example, change our culture, um, compared to living in a village where you know, you're forced to um, consider your neighbor more often because you have to
Right.
help each other in order
Yeah.
to you know, to, for example, living in Romania has been an experience. Like
Oh, I'm
the
sure,
people
man.
that
That's
that work
cool.
the land and rely on it, on the land, you know, take it in turns to help each other. You know, one week in the summer, for example, it's that time of yield. They'll help each other
Mm.
do their cornfield, corn patch, and then
Oh,
they'll help the other
okay. Yeah.
neighbor, and so on, and then exchange cheese or milk or
Hmm.
and obviously they, you know, their lifestyles differ a lot because
Yeah.
of their dependency on certain things.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that
Hmm.
amplified over a period of time, of course. Um,
Right. Hmm. Interesting. I think space exploration is a big white people thing.
yeah,
Like
brilliant,
that's
brilliant.
a massive thing, and I'm actually kind of regretting I didn't do. So everything I do is very comic booky and sci-fi, so I feel like I should get away from that a little bit. You know,
Yeah. Well,
do
I've got
something else.
a one thing left, one board left to do, so I'm gonna probably do something space related for that one. So thanks for the
Okay.
idea, Donald. I will put your name on that.
Okay. There you go. Inspired by Donald Trent. But yeah, that's quite fascinating. I write, or I should say, I post a lot about UFOs and stuff, but people don't respond much because they're just unfamiliar with the topic. It's
Yeah, yeah,
still,
yeah.
I think, kind of odd for most people, but it's a subject I'm interested in.
UFOs and stuff. I mean, it is definitely interesting. I mean,
Mhm.
it's. Do you think we've had contact then?
Oh my God, yeah, like massively. Like, I mean, for
You
for
sounded
for
like your eyes lit
millennia.
up then.
Well, I've I'll just give you a story. So my I'm dating myself a little bit here, but my son is 18, and when he
Uh,
was born, as a new dad, you spend a lot of time kind of sitting around holding your baby and doing dad stuff, and I'm sitting in front of my computer and just kind of rocking him and stuff, and I'm looking at the computer. I'm thinking, anything I want to know is inside this box.
mhm.
Like like, what do you want to know? And I thought about it, and I thought, I've always wanted to know if UFOs are real. Oh boy, so like I that and then I've been on that rabbit hole ever since. So like for a good 18 years, I've been researching this.
Okay,
And it turns out that there's massive amounts of information about it. And also the internet today is much more censored than it was 18 years ago on such topics.
really?
So you can't find as much good content on the topic today that you could. And I don't want to turn this show into the UFO show or whatever, but it's quite. Here's the one thing I'll tell you that I think is interesting. So I recently discovered that there's an app you can download, and I got it. That it basically shows video and audio testimony
Okay.
of UFO sightings around the world, and uh, I I downloaded it, and then I punched in my area, like my neighborhood, literally like down the street, or like where I live. And sure enough, there's all kinds of footage and audio of people, filming the event and or saying like, this is something that happened. My wife and I saw this UFO over this park that I live nearby, and this is what da 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 da. So it's crazy that this stuff happens literally like within a mile of where I live. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen UFOs myself, so that's part of why I'm not like, it's not a big whoop to me. It's not
Have you
like,
really?
you know,
I mean, I've seen some
yeah.
strange things. I'll tell you about my experience once. Just shout out to Hippocratic Oath. He made a point in the comment. He says, "Are you talking about white people things or Anglo-Saxon things? You may be hoping for too much if you want the French or Germans to smile and say hi for no reason ever in a shop."
Ah,
I
oh,
tell you on that subject. Triggered a memory. The Germans, when I was a kid, I used to go on holiday a lot. Every year, my dad used to take us on holiday. That's probably
oh,
the only time that
nice.
we acted as like a family, to be honest. But I give him credit. We went on some nice holidays, and
Yeah.
uh, and when we would go on these all-inclusive sort of package deals to like Italy or Cyprus, there was the Germans, and there was some classic cliche things we could guarantee that they were gonna do. Now, first of all, the men, right? They had speedos,
Yeah.
right? Full on speedos, walked
Oh
around constantly, tight ass speedos. They had the biggest
oh
mustache
boy.
going, right? And they were there the first thing in the morning, 7 a.m., getting the towels down, primed, claiming them sunbeds by the pool. They were first in for breakfast, and they would mound up them plates. They loaded it like a pyramid, and that would
Oh, gee.
kind of kick them off for the day. So it was me and my brother used to laugh, but it was just classic German, and they used
That's
to love the
funny.
tanning as well, like blonde haired, blue eyed. That's why I think when a lot of like black people say, "Oh, white people can't tan and pasty white," they haven't seen Germans tan
Mm,
on holiday. Seriously,
no.
they go bronze brown. They get that oil and lather
Yeah,
it all over them,
it's
and then
it's pretty
they
amazing
are
how, like,
cooking.
yeah, I've had German friends, and they tan beautifully. Actually, I'm kind of
Yeah, yeah.
shocked at that, but yeah,
Obviously, it takes a bit of time. Like you have to ease into it, but we are
yeah.
we are able to go to like a deep bronze.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I'm like English, French, Scottish, and Irish. So I don't. I'm lobster man in the summer. Like
Yeah.
I'm more red than anything.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
But
it's fun.
yeah. So on that thought, but yeah, I think there's varying degrees of differences within um, yeah, some of our Europeans, but there are the very cliche things. So
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to ask you on the subject that you were on. Hopefully, people don't mind talking about this too much. But
Okay.
the notion of vril, because I always thought that was quite interesting, and I know you touched on.
Yeah.
You linked me a video to Robert Sepper, who's a very good
Mhm.
anthropologist and talks a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not really acknowledged as a mainstream kind of academic, but he really goes into a lot of detail about origins
Oh, yeah.
of Caucasian origins
Yeah.
and stuff.
Right. Right. Right.
And I've seen that he talks a lot about sort of vril. So what is vril? And I mean that's kind of
Yeah.
extraterrestrial kind of areas, and vril and the Antarctic. So what
Hmm.
can you kind of
Wow.
tell us about
You're,
that?
you're going down a very interesting road here, my man. All right, let me gather my thoughts a little bit. So, I am still on the journey of researching and trying to understand exactly what Vril is. And in my research, I'm finding that there's things that are clear and there's things that are vague. And there's very little information about how to actually practice Vril. And so, one of the things that appears to be true about Vril is that you could say that it's the Germanic occult word for chi or prana, and
Okay.
chi is qigong, ki in Japanese. Chi, technically, you could refer to that as electromagnetic energy. That's not enough though. That's like the scientific word. I would say I rather bioelectric energy or biomagnetic energy. So it's the catch word for it is life force. Okay.
Hmm.
It exists everywhere. It's in the earth. It's in the air. It's in the water. If you didn't have vril in you, you would be dead. You'd be in. But anyway, so I studied qigong deeply, and for many many years, I still practice it through my practice of kung fu. I was fortunate to learn it at Shaolin Temple and many other schools, many other styles. It's a big topic. So since I have a really good background in that, when I heard that vril is chi, then I was like, oh my god, I've got to dig into this. I think I could maybe create a kind of a vril practice for the movement. Since
Okay.
I could bridge these things between my background experience and this information. Unfortunately, I'm finding it really hard to find information on, like, specifically what did the Tula or Thula society do with Vril. Marie Orsic, what was her? She talks about Vril all the time, but she doesn't tell how to do it. There's this. I'm quite sure there's a lot of documentation that is secret, that's kept. When the U.S., let's say, invaded Germany, they took a lot of that. I'm sure the Russians took a lot of those documents. So it's pretty hard to find out quite exactly what it is. However, if it's just another word for chi, then I guess I could say that I know how to practice and use Vril. So that's a start. What can be done with this bioelectric energy? A lot. It can be used to heal, and it can be used to kill. It can heighten or develop psychic abilities. Um, I don't want to get too foofy with too
Hmm.
hippy dippy with the topic. Um, I would say, from my background with the martial arts and Buddhism and Taoism, it's primarily a health related uh, practice. Um, mm, what else can I say? That's like, I think that's like a pretty good basic approach to the topic, without getting too
Okay.
crazy into like mysticism and yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I qigong is just like exercise or anything. If you do it regularly, you get the benefits. If you stop, then you lose the benefits. But you have to continually practice it and such.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. And like, what is the Germanic occult usage of it? I can't tell you. You know, that is the mystery. That's the thing that I want to learn. You know what I'm saying? So I did buy Robert Seffer's book on this topic, um, and I'll be honest. So what I can say of the book is, it seems to me it's really more about topics revolving around it. Like, there's a lot of stuff on UFOs, Marie Orsich and her psychic connection to Aldebaran, the Aldebaran system, and the Nordic aliens from there. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
so, so
Nordic
it's some pretty
aliens.
wild stuff. Yeah, it's some pretty wild stuff.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. I mean, yeah, it's
So
interesting to, but I don't
yeah,
really
then
pay too much attention to it.
right,
I
and
just thought,
that's
yeah,
I'm sorry, let me just speak to this. So I think I how do I put this? I respect the fact that people are uncomfortable with this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's normal. What I do want to urge people to do is to question, you know, if Hitler had UFOs and the Tula Society and Marie Orsich and all this, then doesn't that make you want to know why? You see what I'm saying here? Like, I'm
yeah,
sure he didn't,
definitely.
you know.
I
Yeah,
see what you're
yeah. So
saying.
it's
If he
yeah.
did, I just at the moment it doesn't seem like a um the way where we are in society, the problems we
Mhm.
face, it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like a subject that is too relevant right now. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
unless these secrets could be learned and then maybe help us in some way. But I think
Right.
we've got too much on our doorstep to worry about.
Yeah.
I think.
So let me try to expand on the topic a bit. So this all relates to the mystery schools. Are you familiar with what the mystery schools are?
Not really, to be honest. No,
Hermeticism. I'm sorry.
no, I
I
don't
didn't hear
really
you.
know.
Hermeticism, Gnosticism, magic, occult.
Yeah,
These.
I've heard of that. Yeah. Um,
Okay. Okay. So how do I? Man, this is super complex. Let's see. Uh, so the use of real force can be used in things like Kabbalah, and as we know, that Kabbalah is the Jewish branch of Hermeticism. But like, there's the Rosicrucianism, there's Hermeticism, there's Gnosticism. These are all branches that go back to Hermes Trismegistus, or the god Thoth from ancient Egypt. And there's something called the Emerald Tablets. People can look that up. That is the sort of Bible of the mystery schools and all of this occult knowledge. So I would guarantee, I'm certain that our enemies are using Kabbalah against us. I guarantee it. There's a there's a
well, they
pretty
talk about it a lot,
today.
don't they?
Say that again.
They do talk about it a lot. I mean, it's not like
Well, it's
something that's hidden
it's
in.
super secret. It's super secret. I would say that the Freemasons use it. There's a relationship between all these things. Um, so like, how do they use it, in what way? I can't tell you. I mean, I know some aspects about, like, as above, so below, and, manifestation, and these various subjects, but I don't practice magic, so I can't say that
Mm,
I can, answer these questions. I know enough to tell you, like, this is what's going on, and that people should research this. Like, for example, if here's my thinking. Let's say, imagine if our movement set up a time, like maybe every day, where all Christians prayed for the end of white genocide.
Mm-hmm.
and we did that at least once a day. Like maybe, like, I don't know, 5 o'clock, or mealtime or tea time or something,
Yeah.
and I believe that with the collective energy of our people doing that, we would manifest the end of white genocide. So prayer is, we don't think of it as magic, because that's sort of taboo to say that. But what is it other than the human will calling on God, or the saints,
Yeah. Yeah.
etc.,
I see
to
where
do
you're going.
something for us? Yeah, yeah.
I guess you're likening prayer to almost like the sort of law of attraction, isn't it? That kind of
Well, I'm sure that there's similarities and differences. The law of attraction is much more using cosmic law. It's just understanding and using cosmic law on a psycho-spiritual level. Our One of the principles of Hermeticism is what's called mentalism, and that means that all is mind, that everything comes from your mind, that you
mhm.
are constantly manifesting. In the Gospel of Thomas, it's said that, Jesus said that, or taught that, you are the poverty that you experience. And it has. I'm not an
I
expert
think
on these things, so it's
uh,
very hard to explain.
yeah, I know what you mean. I mean,
But
I do think that there is a certain understanding of,
mm,
for example, prayer and I think yeah, you could argue that there are um, ways in which how prayer works that
yes,
we're not fully aware of now, for example.
right, right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, I mean, but yeah,
I
I
mean,
think I do believe in prayer myself, and
no,
like you
me too.
say, I
Hugely,
think
hugely. It's a daily. I mean, I pray all day.
yeah,
It's a big, big part of life.
but at the same time,
But
sometimes you feel like it does fall on deaf ears, and then what do you say? It's like, oh, you didn't believe enough, or what? So
right, right. So it's like this. This is pretty much the answer that you would get from someone who studies things like manifestation, etc. Is that you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically causing things not to happen by the way that you think about them.
okay,
So if you're, like, for example, taking the approach to prayer where you're begging God, and you're projecting a lot of fear. Fear
okay,
is the opposite of faith. It's like anti-faith. It's in
yeah,
sense saying, like, I don't believe that you're going to give this to me, God, so I'm begging and begging. I'm so scared. And so you're causing cosmic law to work against you. But
okay,
the hard part is, it's like, okay, if you're in some kind of deep trouble and you're justifiably scared, how do you emotionally, psychologically create the feeling of faith, I guess, the feeling of confidence that, oh, this thing's going to work out fine? Someone, you see what I'm saying? And
hmm
then there's the law of karma, which is, essentially cause and effect and condition. That's all that is. It's really very scientific. It's not. It's regardless of the fact that it's like a word from Sanskrit. You don't have to see it as like this hippy dippy thing. It's just a cause and effect.
hmm
That's what it is. But if this person's karma is such, as such, or whatever it might be, then they created the result that they're going to get. And so, like, if you live a life of crime and you pray not to get arrested, you see where I'm going with that? Like, you're contradicting your own wishes. You see?
yeah. You have to
That's
line
it.
your well, that's part of belief, isn't it? Belief is it's not just but belief is rooted in action. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, if someone was
Thank
to
you.
say they're they're a Christian or whatever, but they don't
Yeah.
live like a Christian, they
Right.
don't
That's a
pray, they
whole other
don't
thing.
follow the
Yeah.
general laws, and you don't You know, you lie, you cheat, you drink yourself
Yeah.
stupid, you're constantly disrespecting people, and things like that. You know,
Right.
we know the things, your do's and don'ts, right? But if you're
Sure.
supposed to, you're called to a life of righteousness and, you know, seeking purity, how much do you believe if you don't, if your actions don't back it up? So, you know, the general
Mm-hmm.
idea is, you know, if you have if you have, your actions show your faith, and it's the two are kind
Ah,
of interchangeable.
that's beautiful. That's interesting. That's really beautiful. There's some kind of a very natural flow between those two things, and as you put it, you know, your actions show your faith. My mother was very, very, very close to God, and I kid you not, like she was in another zone. She needed something. She just said, "Okay, Lord, you know, whatever, whatever," and bingo, it would appear.
Wow.
And my family would look at that and just shake our heads, like, "How do you do that?" You know, like that's so beautiful and wonderful.
Hmm.
And it's something that I'm trying to impress on my son a lot. Is like, remember how Grandma was, and how she had her faith in God was, I would say, childlike, in the sense
Hmm.
of like it was absolutely pure, absolutely pure. And I believe it was the purity of it that
Well,
allowed this kind of thing to happen, I guess. Now, what are your thoughts?
well, I was just going to point something else that you said in you said about childlike faith, and that's pretty much what Christ says. He says, you know, you can't really enter into the kingdom of heaven unless you have, I'm paraphrasing, but you have a
Yeah.
childlike faith. You know, you have to
Hmm.
believe like a child, and it is
Right.
that blind
Right.
faith. It is that naivety, that unwavering
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
element. Where I
Of
mean,
purity.
yeah, I mean, and there's element of fathership as well. And I was thinking today, because we've got a niece, and she's always kind of very happy and bubbly, and I just think, what is it that the children have that us as adults struggle
Ah.
with to have that? And
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
realize that, to be honest, they're not wise to the world. They're not bogged down
Yes.
by all of
Right.
the
Right.
understanding of, you know, the fears and the looming
Mm-hmm.
threats and things. And maybe
Oh
this
God,
is
I know.
all done intentionally to keep us this way. But if we approach life
Uh-huh.
like children, then, you know,
Yeah.
maybe we'd be better off for it.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear the thoughts of people in the chat on that topic, actually. It would really be nice to hear you guys chime in a bit on
Yeah,
this
sure.
particular topic. What was it? I saw a video recently about, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what the this particular element was, but they were saying that children are born with a lot of X, whatever X was, and I guess it's like both a biological and a spiritual kind of energy.
Hmm.
And then as you get older, you gradually lose it. And then when you're, quite old and, sort of ready to pass on, you may not have any of it left.
Right.
But the thing to do, though, is to retain childlike innocence
Hmm.
throughout your life. So in the arts, they say, in art education, for example, they say that all children are born artists. They just unlearn it as they grow older. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting thought. Like, because I've talked to so many people that they love to see my art and this and that, and oh man, I used to draw when I was a kid. I loved it, and da da da. And I'm like, why did you stop? Well, I don't know, whatever. And I have one good friend who is actually getting back into it, Luke Mason, who people
Okay.
who know me and my content would know Luke Mason. He's getting back into drawing. He doesn't really need my help, but like I'm kind of, you know, not coaching him, just giving him good bits of advice here and there. And he's bringing it all back, and it's so beautiful. So it's it's just hang on to your soul. You know what I mean? Hang on to your soul. don't let life crush you. Yeah, and I'd say for a lot of, I mean, what are we trying to do by getting drunk? But to go back to that careless, carefree time, not careless, carefree time, where all our inhibitions are gone and we're just silly and happy.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's
Anyway,
escapism. Another comment in the chat. An egregore from Hippocratic Oath again. An egregore gets more power from the number of participants. So the London Olympics had a ceremony to Apollonian to bring about the C-19 crisis. That's very interesting, actually. The did you ever see that, the Olympics NHS ceremony? I mean, this was pre-COVID, and it was literally like it looked like a ritual. It was quite demonic, and
oh,
there
it's
was all these
horrible.
nurses, and then there was the viruses, and the same kind of COVID-esque type
Yeah.
symbol was used.
Um,
And I mean, it's amazing, really, how
yeah.
how
Well,
like
there's.
similar it
Let me
was
speak to
to
that.
what
You know,
transpired.
so it's believed and it's said that in Satanism that in order for Satanists to get away with what they do, they and this is how they get around the law of karma is they have to tell you what they're going to do, and if you don't resist, if you don't rebel
Wow.
against what it is that they're telling you they're going to do to you, then they go ahead and do it, and there's sort
Yeah.
of
Well, that's why
no.
Klaus Schwab, knowing that, then he would have wrote a
Yeah,
book and told exactly what he's going to do, right?
that's what they're doing now. I mean, it's what's so crazy about the whole thing. Like Yuri Harari, I think his name is.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
all the time he's saying things like, there's no need for useless eaters, and human beings are hackable animals, and we don't need God, and blah 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 blah, all this stuff. And you look at people and you're like, hello, why isn't anybody reacting to this? But
Hmm.
since it's on the stage of the World Economic Forum, and there's all these rich Arabs there who own oil wells, and there's all the blah blah blah, all this shit, then somehow or other it's like, oh, okay, that's the way of the world. Like, this is what's progressive. This is what we're supposed to embrace. And
Hmm.
naturally, the sane people are like, screw that, like that.
Yeah.
But and it's been pretty interesting. Anyway, there's a lot of people who are deep in on understanding the Satanist religion of the New World Order, and this is what I've read anyway, is that they, you know,
Hmm.
this is how they get around the law of karma, essentially.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important what you were saying about. I mean, I mean, no one can really deny that positive thoughts, positive thinking, isn't
Mhm.
important. And excuse me, I think it's definitely something that I'm going to try and do more because, um, you know,
Well, I
uh,
practice it, and I'll tell you how I do it, and what I'm no master of this, what have you, but in my practice, well, let me start off by saying every single day, several times a day, I'd have uncanny synchronicities. I almost always look at the clock right at 111, 222, 333, 444, 555. Not 666, but
yeah.
or 10, 11, 11, 12, 12. And I laugh so loud every time that happens, because I just feel very clearly that this is simply God talking to me,
Mm,
and that it's essentially, here's the thing: you have to learn how to listen to your heart. You have to learn how to listen to your intuition, and let that guide you. There is an inner voice through which we communicate. And so the thing with what I find helpful in approaching positive thinking manifestation is grounding yourself in gratitude. saying
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, this bad thing's happening now. um I have faith in God. I love you, God. I know you love me, and it's not going to be like this forever. So I'm just, I'm learning from this difficulty, and I'm trying, and help me, Lord, to understand what's happening, why it's happening. I embrace the growth that comes from this experience.
hmm
And even though it's hard, I'm grateful for the lesson, because I know I'll only be better and stronger for it. You know, and then kind of spend some time thinking through all the wonderful things you have. Think about the people you know who have it much worse than you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it brings a lot of it changes your kind of mental emotional orientation. So that works a lot for me, and I'm definitely going through some heavy shit.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I do try and practice. Well, pray and pray, show gratitude most mornings, and try and think of the things I'm thankful for. But I do find myself
mhm.
getting in a habit of dwelling too much on the things that I don't have, or the things I'm striving for, like um,
Mhm, mhm.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, um,
financial freedom and stuff. I mean, I got quite big into crypto at one point, and
yeah.
it's
Oh,
it, and at some points it can be quite consuming mentally, and it's like you're waiting for that big pump again, and then
yeah.
then you'll cash out at the right time, and then you'll be
Sure,
set.
sure.
It's them kind of thoughts, and it's
Right, right, right.
it's the wrong mentality, I know, but it's just so easy
I don't.
to fall into that trap.
Yeah, I again, if I had like all the answers, I'd gladly give them to you. Still working on a lot of that, but I feel like a lot of it is just, in a way, it's just simply having a positive relationship with your own life.
Mm.
Um, in many ways, it's not the money we want so much as the freedom that we want, and
Yeah,
the
the
lack
freedom
of
that
suffering
brings.
that yeah, we don't want to suffer the things that we have to suffer, through the absence of money, through poverty, et cetera, et cetera. So it might help to reorient how you think of it, from that perspective. That's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and yeah. So it's a struggle. I'm still in the midst of it. I guess we could probably just compare notes as we go,
Mm.
and learn more,
Yeah,
as
it's
time
being
passes.
grateful, and self
Mhm.
reflection is massive.
Oh,
It's
that's
so
massive.
easy to
Yeah.
kind of always think things are other people's fault, and
Yeah.
blame them uh,
Right.
for.
I struggle with that a lot. I feel like that's one of the key questions of our movement is how how can, like, there's that sense of like, I'm not in control of other people, but I'm in control of my reaction to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So somebody hurts me or my people in some kind of way, and I'm justifiably angry and even hateful about it. But
Hmm.
then I recognize that that's actually just hurting me more, and it's like, even if it's not racial or something, and you have an experience in life where someone is manipulating you, hurting you, pushing your buttons, da da da. It's not until you kind of let go, and to some extent, that you become free of it. And by let go, I don't mean this kind of like, I'm just going to ignore my feelings or ignore the situation. Uh, you obviously have to stand up for yourself. You have to know how to interact with narcissists, with sociopaths, and have ways in which you, strategies in which you can talk to these people, whereby you are maintaining your space, your center, and
Hmm.
not allowing them to abuse you and use you. But the very, very, very beginning of all that is having a kind of emotional distance and recognizing that, only I am in control of my own reactions to these things. It's pretty hard
Yeah,
for people
yeah.
just to get there, just to start
Well,
there.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, in the community sometimes there's a lot of fallouts and rifts, and I just want to talk to this
Hmm.
because it all links into what we've been talking about with regards
Hmm.
to how we shape our thoughts, and
Hmm.
you know, if you're gonna go into that sort of manifesting things with your beliefs and your positive frame of mind and everything,
Yeah.
then touching on the subject of labels and the whole thing with rifts with the movement like no white guilt and all of this,
Sure.
and then say for
Right.
example have people fraction and move off, and then the problem I have is labels. When people bracket each other into belonging to this
Mhm.
group or that group, and then he uses these labels, and no, you can't use those labels because you're part of that group. I think
Right.
that's when
Oh yeah.
they're I mean they're the true divisions, aren't they? The divisions when you start to see internally each other as kind of
Mhm.
separate entity
Mhm.
because they aren't on board with certain sort of doctrines or thought
Right.
processes, and
Right.
that
A lot of
essentially
policing.
shapes the movement, doesn't it? It shapes the fractions, and these
It
fractal splits
it
occur, and
can. Yeah. Yeah. The policing of language within the movement and such.
yeah, and that's
I'm
both ways,
familiar with
isn't it?
what
You know.
it can. It's fascinating. I just was on a stream on Twitter. Twitter has these, like, I guess they're called Twitter Spaces, where someone will start a phone call, and
Uh-huh.
then people will come in, and you can have a lot of people on these calls, and then the whoever starts the call can choose who can be a speaker, and then other people just kind of tune in and listen. And so you can like raise your hand, like, yeah, I'd like to join the conversation on whatever the topic is.
Hmm.
And the topic of infighting came up, and I had quite a lot to say about that.
Righto.
And specifically, this group, yeah, I guess you know what Groypers are. They're the people that follow Nick Fuentes. That's like, one faction of our movement.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so like I'm in there, and I'm these essentially they're young guys. Like they seem to be mostly guys in their 20s and stuff. So they don't have a huge amount of life experience. They're in many ways, and I don't say this as an insult, but they're still kind of in the high school mentality.
Right.
And the high school mentality is to kind of like be insulting and belligerent and
Yeah. Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
hottest takes and be like, whoever's more rude to the other person wins the argument. And this is it's so juvenile. It's very juvenile.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, "Oh my God, we have such a problem with infighting," and I'm like, "Because you're immature, like, like you're causing it because of your inability to agree to disagree. Like, everyone's kind of in a different place. You have different generations. You got people from different cultures. There's a guy, like an older gentleman from Ireland, on the call,
Yeah.
and they were ripping into him, and I'm like, this is stupid and rude and not becoming of like us as a movement. And so I was saying, listen, there needs to be a protocol of etiquette. Like, if you identify, okay, these people are in the movement, we have the same enemy, we have the same struggle, the same
Uh-huh.
cause. I recognize that you're in the no weight guilt camp. I recognize you're a Groiper. I recognize you're in this group or that group, or you're a Christian or you're a pagan, whatever it is. But those things are secondary to the cause.
Yeah. I
You
agree.
have your way of,
I agree.
you have your way of, yeah, you have your way of expressing yourself and using those beliefs in your system of how you fight this against white genocide, but insisting that everybody follow your way when there's so much sort of diversity among us, us all in this movement. You're shooting us all in the foot. You're doing the enemy's work for them. Every time
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
infight, we just let them win. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
it's a very, very critical thing. I would love to hear people in the chat comment on that. We just simply have to stop being rude to each other. That's kind of what this all boils down to. And say, listen, you do your thing and I'll do my thing. You know, if you feel like, you know, whatever, you use these words or these techniques, then let the proof is in the pudding. You know, let in the what do you call it, the marketplace of ideas. You know what I'm saying? That if your way is more effective, then I'll do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That
I
makes
mean,
sense?
that's exactly the things that are ineffective will naturally run their course dry.
Totally.
But there's no point getting any bad blood over it, because end of the day, we all face the same threat. If one of us was,
Right.
in danger in the street, you're gonna step in
Yeah.
for each other. At least I'd
Totally.
like to think that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we literally haven't got any time for bad blood. So
No.
yeah.
You're nailing it. Yeah. So here's my thing is that I always say this, like, and I urge everyone in the chat and anyone who watches this show to remember this statement. Insults are not arguments. Insults are not arguments. Because as soon as you meet that one guy in the movement who's going to start, you know, insulting you and going after you and character assassination and ad hominem attacks, they're losing the argument. They're trying to control you through intimidation and being belligerent. This is what leftists do. We shouldn't be
Yeah.
stooping to that.
Yeah, I know. And to be honest, some of them, some nationalists that I have altercations with, don't have many, but they definitely feel like it's sort of a leftist mentality. That, the arguing methods and things like that, and the accusations. It's like, well, for one, it's fully emotive, and I don't know. I think we need to hold our people to a high standard and
yes.
and moral
So,
standard, a
there you
moral
go.
code, moral etiquette, like you touched on before.
Right. Whenever I get into these altercations, I'm not thinking about the person who's opposing me or whatever, fighting me. I think about all the people that are watching the argument. So because a lot of this happens on social media. You might get in a thread or something somewhere. You say something, somebody comes out and just immediately starts insulting you, and towing the line or whatever. And then everybody will pause and like kind of see, there's a fight going on over here. Let's watch, which is stupid in itself, but whatever, that happens. It's a social thing. And then, I'll kind of let the person, this is a bit of a kung fu strategy, by the way.
Okay.
I'll let them show their cards, like let them make their moves. And then now I know your moves. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm a little more familiar with what I'm fighting, so to speak. And then I'll just calmly, again, emotional control, say insults are not arguments. And then they'll attack, and then I'll say insults are not arguments. And then everyone in the chat watching this will be like, yeah, like, come on, let's debate. How come your talking points are failing? Like, you're not able to discuss this. If you're just going to keep insulting someone, you lose. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, of course.
But here's the thing: it's not about my ego gratification. I'm not here, like, we're all about truth here in this movement. It's not. I mean, that's how else did you get this far down the line? How else did you get J-pilled, or red pilled or whatever? It's because you obey the truth. I want to align with the truth. So if someone is not doing that, they're just defending their ego. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, true.
And that's bullshit. That's just not. We need a higher standard than that. That's not who we are, really.
Yes, all very, very true. Sage words of wisdom there by the Donald Kent.
So Conch is here. That's one of my old buddies. I haven't seen in a while. He writes, the Groyper crowd is a reflection of their age, but more importantly, is reflective of the Nick Fuentes attitude. So that I could open that up. So what is the Nick Fuentes attitude? It's this kind of like when you're in high school today, in today's day and age, the
Mm.
hottest takes, the most radical points of view, the most shocking, bold statements. It's like shit lording, but live. You see what I'm saying? Like a lot of us will shit lord, but we hide behind an avatar or something. But in this kind of modern high school mentality, the more brazen and brash and shocking you are, the cooler you are, the funnier you are, the more popular you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, see, the coming generations, they're not gonna they're not gonna be as polite as we are. So
No.
this, but they lack maturity, they lack life experience, and this belligerent style, or subculture, it turns a lot of people off, and it automatically creates infighting, which is not healthy for the overall movement. So Conch continues. He says, as someone who is from a neighborhood that racially changed, I never understood why there is infighting in the pro-white scene. But it is the internet, people who are not face to face. See, that's a whole other dimension. Probably one of the biggest factors is that we're not face to face. We don't have the accountability of like standing up for whatever it is that we're saying. So that's really, really, really good points there. But
Yeah. Agreed.
anyone else in the chat want to chime in on that? I think that's an interesting.
Got a comment from
topic.
Hippocratic Oath again this side. Knowledge, was it Richard Spencer reconciles with Nick and Andrew Anglin turns on Nick. Just accept that this will increase as the Enlightenment goes into its death throes. I don't know who Andrew Anglin is. Don't know who, if you can speak to
I
that.
do. I don't follow him, but he was one of the earlier guys on the scene. He's sort of. I guess I associate him with like Unite the Right. Way
Okay.
back when, like he's so like Cantwell. Who's the guy that did Unite the Right? What's his name? I'm fading on these names because these guys are not really out there much anymore. But like, long story short, he's just like a shock jock. That was a whole culture of shock jocks in the pro white scene.
Okay.
Back in say like 2014, 15, 16. Mike Enoch is an example of that, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that kind of rude, guyish type behavior that people were drawn to, and they thought like that's bait that this guy can speak so openly about this particular topic. But to me, that's not like that's internet culture. It's not mainstream. It's never going to be mainstream because it turns people off. It scares people. It's just it's very racist. It's like openly racist.
Yeah, I
But
think
at the same time, they know
that's
the
not going to
truth and
win
they're
me
out there.
any people over, is it? We have to be wise, and I guess respectful. We need to be decent. We need to be the best version of ourselves. Really, hold ourselves accountable to a high moral code, and kind of be blameless, which is hard because another thing I was going to talk about is the likes of Sam. Case Sam Melia, who's been found guilty by the jury, and I mean the level of corruption and injustice in the British courts is really sad.
Horrible.
And
horrible. Draconian.
It's I mean how they will get you on anything and try and pin something on you to build a character profile. I think Mark's watched, if anyone's seen Mark's videos and breaks down the case, it's really worth a watch
Mark
because
Collette. Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
It's
Yeah.
just worth knowing how these people will
Yeah.
find you guilty, even when you're not really guilty of defending, of speaking
Right.
out. You know, you are on
Right.
the
Right.
chopping block.
Right.
You are a target, and unfortunately, our own people, the leftists, many leftists, will try and
Yeah.
provoke and kind of bring out reactions from you in order so that it can be held against you at a later time. And
Precisely.
it's sad because they're still our people. I still see them as our people, and
I understand.
we need to. We can't just
Yeah.
see them as lost causes, because there will be one day they
Yeah.
will wake up to the dangers, and they will need us, and we will need them.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way
Yeah. That.
to
Yeah.
uh, mitigate conflict, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we need to elevate our moral etiquette now.
Well, like my friend Nullis, who's been on a lot of my shows, he says that we need a redemption arc. I like that term, a redemption arc. That like
Mm,
these are people that were lost and then could be found again. That they could
yeah,
come to the
yeah,
truth at some point.
yeah, for
And
sure, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And a lot of the
I mean,
times,
let's
these
just
people are by nature just sheep. It's sad. Not
well,
to be too insulting, but a lot of the
right.
peoples that follow the status quo are generally them not independent thinkers. It doesn't render them
No, God,
completely useless. It's just they are
no. Yeah,
following status quo and not thought themselves
yeah,
out of the lies that they're flooded with, and their morality has been hijacked. That's how we need to see it. Their
totally.
morality has been hijacked. They think they're
It's well
fighting for
done.
something good, and one day they will realize that they were on the losing team, and pointing the finger and saying and kind of shutting the door is not going to do any of us any good. I don't think, anyway.
Well, I mean, our enemies are very, very good at deception for starters. But it's a lot of it, in my view, is social. It's a social behavior. It's
Hmm.
about conformity. That normalizing XYZ. Then like I want to be normal. I want to fit in. I don't want to lose my friends or family or such. So I have to toe the line. Otherwise, I could be ostracized. So it's a social fear, in my view. That's why it takes a lot of courage to do what we do, to be who we are.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. But all of this comes back to what I was saying before about we need to have a form of etiquette that is understood and agreed upon across the entire movement. So that
Hmm.
we're working together. Because if, let's say, someone wanted to learn about us and they said, "Hey, I'm really interested. What is it? Are you guys the alt right? Are you, uh, what are you? Like what do you call yourselves? What's the dissident right? This and that. What is white positive? Da da da. How would you even start to educate them? Because we're already maligned by the media, the lying
Hmm.
media.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and if we're all fighting with each other, what kind of impression is that going to make? You see what
Exactly.
I'm saying? It's bullshit, basically. So it's quite complex, the culture that we're in.
It is, and it's not easy. I mean, we're not intending to sit here on our high horses, because I did get into
Yeah,
altercations and try and argue my points and stuff. And
sure.
I think ultimately the best approach is to be rooted in facts, logic, and just
Yeah,
stay respectful. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's the best tack to take.
right, right, right. Um, it's funny because even now I still I still want to share information with like my family and friends who left me for dead, basically, who abandoned me because of my politics.
Really?
And I mean,
Wow.
because we're in a stage now where it's all out in the open. and everything that I've been warning them against for years is now like shoved down their throat daily. And so I'm like, you owe me an apology for one, but I mean, I'm not gonna lord it over them or something like that. But it's, I think, I don't know. It seems like, okay, is it safe now to talk about it? That it's like openly happening, or like the border, or World War III, or uh, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And it's really, I get the impression that everybody just, they're in this kind of like, if I ignore things, it'll go away, or that makes me unhappy, and I don't want to be unhappy. It's this childish, like sense of like, only show me positive things because I'm a mental kindergartner.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty much the sense that I get from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I've had to shut out friends, and not had to, but they just naturally incompatible. And I think when you change too much over the years, like old uni friends, I'd love to reach out to and catch up with. I just know that there's too much water under the bridge, to the point where it's like I'm way far down the stream and they're way far down the opposite end of the stream, taking different paths, and would probably still have a great time, having a quick catch up drink and whatnot.
Sure.
Not getting too drunk, obviously, because we tried to be, but yeah, we still like to have a good time. But yeah, no, it's sad when you do lose friends. But there's people I hold on to as well. Like, I think that I try and, I mean, there are some people that have been in left-wing circles and feel torn between, and know that they're what the left wing tend to be like in terms of kind of savage, vicious, liars. And generally, people on the right wing do have more of a moral compass. I mean, even the ones that don't follow a particular religious kind of ideal, that they tend to be innately more moral.
I agree.
And that's so.
Yeah. So with since I started looking for friends to spar kung fu with, I met a guy out on the club scene who, he does Wing Chun and karate, and he's really, really good. He's like a very good person to spar with because he's mature. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows how to control himself. He's got his head in the right place. But he's like a hardcore hipster. Like he's a very, very, very lefty hipster guy. Like, to look at him, he's got that whole metrosexual style or this or that. And I'm, my approach is like, I don't know how to explain this, but like my right-wing friends would be like, what the hell are you doing hanging out with him?
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just enlarge your screen, please? So I'm going to get yours up on mine so others can see. Yeah, there we are. Sorry, carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Okay. No, so I thought, my God, if this guy knew who I really am, like he probably wouldn't talk to me. You know what I mean? Like I thought,
I know.
Do not talk politics. Yeah, like be very, very cautious. Hide your values to some extent. Like you can. And so when you're sparring with someone, it's pretty, you're really right in there. It's like, I feel like you don't know. There's a line from The Matrix: you don't truly know someone until you fight them, which I love. It's a funny line. But and I kind of think it's true. There's something deep, and anyway, I'll just say that. So we had a lot of time to talk. And though I'm very cautious, I'm kind of letting out little bits and feeling out like, how much can I share with this guy, and kind of feeling out his perspective. I pretty much already know, like, I mean, leftists are very predictable, like it's very canned. They have like a very canned, like,
Mm-hmm.
outlook on life. It's just, you know what I'm trying to say. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
they all follow the same, they dance to the same beat, so to speak. But I was surprised to see that this guy is smarter than that. I mean, he he's like biracial, so he's not. I think people in his specific case are, I don't know, they're sensitive to racial stuff and identity and things. So I don't obviously go there or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
he is smart enough at least to understand a lot of psychology. Like he grew up in New York City. So that's quite different. If you grow up in New York City, you have to have like street smarts.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what
It's
I'm saying?
different. It's
You
street.
really,
Yeah.
really have to. Yeah, and you got to be able to read people and know who's safe and who's not. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and me having lived in New York City, that was a kind of a bonding point for us, which was nice. But I don't know. I've discovered like it's been a really fun and enriching friendship.
Okay.
Um, and I don't like. It's not like he doesn't talk about politics with me either. I don't look like a lefty, like I don't. I mean, I'm unique in my look or whatever, but I think it's come across to him like this guy's not one of us, sort of. You know what I'm saying? Um,
How
and
do
there was
you
even
look? What's your?
how do I look? Like my
Yeah.
style?
You got? Yeah.
That's
You
fun.
the typical. It's got your skinhead going on and
No,
dungarees.
yeah. Oh, so my face is covered with tattoos. No. No, God, no. That's it. I mean, I do have a very unique style. I stand out. Gosh, that is a tough question to sort of answer, but
Do you like the sort of mustache with the twisty ends?
do
True,
I come
true
across
art
like that?
teacher.
Do
No, I don't know. Just
I?
people
Well,
tend.
I'm definitely a beard. I'm a beard guy. Like I have a
Okay.
very like full, handsome beard. I will say that. But
Unfortunately, my brother nicked those jeans. So I mean, I can grow a pretty cool goatee, but in terms of the full spectrum, man beard,
okay,
my brother took those
okay.
jeans. Sad.
The man beard. There you go.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not so much that as just kind of the way that I carry myself. Like I don't, wherever I go, I act like I own the place.
Oh
It's a
really?
kind of a philosophy. Yeah, it's just a
Uh,
philosophy that I have that always you fake it till you make it. Like always exude good energy
uh,
and
yeah, it's a good way to be.
especially if you're in the city and you're around people of color that are potentially dangerous and such, they have a kind of like an animalian mind, and they're looking for weakness.
Hmm.
They're like animals in that regard. Like if they see that you're not confident, then they'll do something. They'll hurt you. So you have to walk and talk and act in a way that like you own the place. You don't care.
Hmm.
And then and I mean that's not like why I do it, but I think it's just one of the effects of that. I don't know why I'm talking about
Well,
myself so much, but
maybe. Well, I've been asking a lot about yourself.
oh,
Yeah,
you,
we've got some. Christina's one of her best friends lives in New York, actually. So
oh,
maybe we were potentially thinking of going out one year. But when the time's right,
awesome stuff.
maybe I'll meet in real life, in IRL.
You know, like I've always wanted to come to Mark Collette's event. I forget what it's called. It's doesn't he do like a yearly event?
Yeah.
It's like a
I've been to everyone, I think, and the camps. I love the camps. They're so good. Like, and that's the thing, when you hear about what people say in the papers about us and the way that, like, for example, Hope Not Hate
yeah,
talk about us, and then you
yeah,
come to
yeah,
these camps and you just meet the kind of the cream of the crop of our nation.
yes,
Just the
yeah,
real concerned people, the family
right,
orientated, just
yeah,
decent,
yeah,
honest people that can see
I
the
know.
writing on the
I know.
wall, and
Right.
looking to build community, and
Simple
we
stuff.
do attract a decent crowd. I mean, and it's totally different to how Mark was. People don't realize that he's
Yeah.
he knows how to generate a decent community. He's made his
We're so
mistakes
lucky.
in the past.
We're so lucky to have Mark. Mark is tremendous. We're so lucky to have him. I mean, he's
Yeah,
just a
and
tremendous man. Yeah. What can I say? We kind of. Oh, but just the topic of like having a friend who is I mean, I don't think that he would call himself a lefty. Like he's not like one of these weirdo Antifa type guys. Not at all. Um,
Hippocratic Oath says, when an elf becomes an orc, there's no going back. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's true in some cases. And have you heard Edward Dudson's talks on a lot of this stuff? A lot of the left wing
you
tend
know,
to be orientated that way because of their genetics. And that might be true. I don't, it's probably got some weight to it. But I can't not rule out the thought of kind of a redemption for certain people.
right,
If
right. Well,
you have to have your
I'm
arms
familiar.
open, I think.
Right, I'm familiar, of course, with Edward Dutton. I actually was hired to illustrate a book cover for him,
Really?
but yeah, like Richard Spencer hired me to do that, but then they changed their mind because the idea was too radical.
Okay. Wow.
So, I mean, it was kind of a neat little experience. But anyway, I would agree that there's definitely a genetic component to these things. I think what people don't recognize is the plasticity of DNA and
Mm-hmm.
how things can change. DNA mutates, it evolves, it changes according to certain factors. My take is that lefties are people who are emotionally damaged. They're emotionally
Yeah, I
damaged.
think there is definitely evidence for mental illness
Yeah,
and
yeah,
trauma in their life.
totally.
Um,
Hugely, hugely. Yeah, yeah. So but here's the thing is that Marxism is precisely the methodology of turning emotionally damaged people into soldiers, into like, Antifa or anything. And that goes all the way up to, politicians, college, university professors, people who harnesses their hatred of others, their jealousy of others, based on their personal psychological traits, and
mhm.
then warps it into this bizarre world of like fake truths and half truths and essentially hatred. Like it's just like codified anti-white racism. um
Mhm.
what is critical race theory? What is diversity, equity, inclusion? What is all that? It's pure anti-white ideology.
Yeah.
So it's pretty evil shit. But and you're not going to fall for it if you don't like hate yourself to begin with. You know what I mean?
True. Very true.
That's-
Exactly. So I think you have to be grounded in. I mean, that's what helps being grounded in a belief system. Um,
yeah.
and strong
Yeah.
family ties. If you have a strong mother and a father
Oh,
that can
dude,
really guide you out of
that's
it or
the
set you on a
that's the
path,
key right
you're not gonna
there, dude. That
be as likely to kind of get roped in from the daddy government that says this is the better way.
you nailed it so much. My personal view is that feminism is the worst part of it. That it's like the most powerful form of Marxism. It's the most damaging when you turn women, because women, essentially liberal women, are the managerial class of the left. You see what I'm saying? Like, nobody wants to go against a psychotic woman.
Hmm.
Like we know how they are, and everyone's afraid of them, and so nobody fights them, nobody stops them, nobody tells them, holds them accountable for their actions,
Yeah.
and hence they've become the managerial class. So, and like LGBT would never have gotten as far as it is now, because men would never support such a thing. Like, men aren't
Well,
behind
yeah.
that. That's, you know, it's only women that support that shit, you know. And so, and that's just one aspect of it. The whole, like, you know, immigrants or whatever, migrants are welcome here. That's like misplaced motherhood. You know,
Yeah, it's misplaced empathy, isn't it?
empathy.
So yeah,
That maternal.
I think the rift between man and woman has been one of the key, well, the founding problems in order to give power to the state more. Definitely.
Hugely, dude. Massive, massive. It's
So,
known that the feminist magazine Ms. in America, I know you probably don't have that, but that was funded by the CIA.
well,
And, like, you know, that's, anyway, these things are turning around, they are changing, but so long as, you know, society is producing damaged people, then the left is going to keep living and growing. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So, like, this is one part of the white positive sphere that we probably should be talking more about, is how do we prevent this from happening? You know what I'm
true,
saying? Yeah.
true. Well, it's coming up to an hour 45. I mean, I'm about done with choosing. Well, I've done all of my provisional ideas. I'm gonna finalize one, put it out to the community to choose the favorite of
Very
mine.
good.
So I'm just going to go over these ideas. We have the number one. Number one, we've got just a standard scene. People aspiring to get to the top of the peak. Very average. This is a fun idea. Guy getting to the top of the peak, but he's busting some guitar riffs with his speaker. He managed to carry, and I just thought that would be really fun and cool. A bit of joke humor there for white things.
Right.
Yeah, I think that'd be funny.
I like that. That blows my mind when I see those people who jump off cliffs and fly like that.
I know
That's
that is
so
crazy. Yeah. Oh, they get
so
so
crazy.
sometimes they get like just meters away from the ground as well. So there's
Oh,
that one.
makes your stomach
White people things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one, two. Third one, the flight. What would you call them? Wing gliders. We've got the climbing, mountaineering. So
Wow.
that's one, and there's two wing gliders there as well, just kind of silhouetted by the sun. And then there's your idea, which spurred on this, looking back at Earth, and I don't know what's in the middle. I think that it'd probably be the moon, and so we've kind of surpassed the moon. We're on a different planet there. But yeah, just another idea. I quite like
Great ideas.
the values on that, and it would make a good poster, I think. But this is
Marvelous.
this is one of my favorite idea. I think just it'd be fun to do. So I'm going to put that out to the community to choose, and then I will flesh that out and do a time-lapse video and finalize. So do you want to talk through yours, Donald, before we finish off?
Yeah. Let me first say that I ordered a new camera that is more high resolution, and I'm sorry this has not been the best in terms of like focal quality or something. Maybe if I'm closer, it's not that much better. But I'm still waiting for the camera to arrive. Anyway, yeah, I just was impressed by these videos you see of people saving animals. And there's all kinds of, like, little kittens that fall down sewers, or, you know, cows or sheep that fall into the gutter, or this or that. I'm sure you guys have come across. A lot of them are sort of funny videos, cute videos. But, you know, and I told a story at the beginning of today's show about a polar bear that had his tongue stuck to a tin can, and how they sent in mercy flight, and that, you know, they had like you know, helicopters, and they knocked it out, and they did surgery. You know, I mean, why? You know, it's just marvelous that white people have this kind of compassion, and that they'll take these risks. You know, they risk their own lives helping these creatures, these animals. And so it's just a real simple image. I mean, there's some compositional qualities here that I
Very
think
well
are
drawn.
nice. I'm always
It's very well drawn, and it
thank you.
captures the emotion as well. You know, the fear of the animal, and also the
Yeah,
the human is the guy there. He's he's approaching with caution. It really captures
yeah.
the moment well. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, not everything I do has to be radical and like
No,
sort of
no,
like
exactly.
revolutionary.
So all in, we've captured kind of like the two kind of two ends of the spectrum of white people things. We've got the daredevil
Nice.
kind of adventurous side, pushing things to the
Mhm.
limits, and then we've got the heart and compassion. And I think that sums the topic up quite nicely, as
All
white
right,
people
mission
thinks. Yeah,
accomplished.
mission
Mission
accomplished.
accomplished. And let's thank the people in the chat who contributed well to the show. We love interacting with you. We want more interaction. Feel free anytime to pop in, share your
Yeah,
thoughts, and always share the show, like the show, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Um,
exactly.
my You can visit my website, it's kent-art.weebly.com. It's right on the homepage of my YouTube channel. You can get my book of art and poetry there as well if you like. So we thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and also if you want to check out the Patriotic Arts community, the website patrioticarts.community, or if you're on Telegram, at Patriotic Arts for the archive stuff, and then Patriotic Arts community to join in the chats, and also feel free to get involved with these topics. Any creations you do, poems, graphic design, photography, whatever. Would love to show your work and some of the best selections, and if not all of them, on
That'd be
the following streams. So we'd like it to be a group effort. So
Absolutely.
thanks
It's
for
a
tuning
community.
in, guys, and good to have Donald back.
Yeah, sorry. All right, God bless everyone. We'll see you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night.